Hello, and welcome to the State of Anarchy. This is the inaugural State of Anarchy podcast. We're your hosts, Carmen, Carangi, and Sonny, Mazzone. And this has been a long time coming, bro. We've been talking about this for years, for aeons, it feels like.
Yeah, this is, it's been something that's been in the works for a while. I think we got a little sidetracked by some other projects, but we have a lot to talk about.
That we do. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff coming up. We came off of a big year, and then we got a lot of fun stuff happening in February of next year with Anarchapulco. But there is some burning news in the media right now that I'm sure that everybody is very curious about and wants to hear addressed.
That's true. Well,
so without further ado, here it is. Everybody, here's our take on the situation.
Well,
where to start? Where to begin?
Honestly, you know what I would like to do? I would actually like to start by reading the Mark Passio statement. That's actually a great way to do it. That reminds me of Zeitgeist in the beginning where they like talk about, or in the 9/11 portion where they outline the official story given for 9/11, and that allows them to go into each detail. That's a good way to start it. I like that. I mean, that's that. I don't know how Mark would feel about that analogy, but I'm trying to pull it up.
But there are some questionable things that I would like to
for sure
definitely address.
For sure. Some of you may have been turned on to the State of Anarchy because of Mark Passio. So you may be privy to the fact that we're having a little bit of a falling out. He made a public statement. I would like to read it so that Carmen and I could actually address it point by point and kind of speak to some of the mischaracterizations that were made in this statement. So let me read it, and then we'll get into our actual side of the story. This is Mark Passio's statement on Facebook.
He actually also put it on his website.
Okay,
so it's on the landing page of whatever.
Right, and honestly, we'll throw in the link in the description if you want.
Yeah, go check it out.
Go check it out. But now this is Mark. With a heavy heart and great disappointment, I must inform my community of friends and associates of the following unfortunate facts. What on earth is happening has dissolved our affiliation and association with the State of Anarchy, currently comprised of Carmen Carangi and Sonny Mazzone. I participated in an Anarchadelphia 2019 conference, September 13th through 16th, 2019 in Philadelphia, where I presented an original presentation, The Sacred Gift of Anger, a documentary rough cut, Mark Passio and the Science of Natural Law, participated in an occult panel discussion with Max Egan and Derek Brose, and held an all-day-long workshop teaching natural law with Mark Passio. I was informed the week following the event that money was collected on my behalf for the workshop, and affiliate promotions were used by the State of Anarchy to fund their conference without my permission. I made an agreement with Carmen Carangi to forgo a speaking stipend in exchange for the proceeds from my workshop. Other members of the State of Anarchy were not made aware by Carmen that he had made this agreement with me, an agreement that was witnessed by my assistant Leah Boone, very unbiased. A short time after my workshop, the misappropriation of my payout was disclosed to me at a lunch by members of the State of Anarchy, and I was offered $1,000 as a settlement. Not true. I should read this all in one statement, but it's again that actually wasn't what our offer was at all. I refused this offer as this was not the agreement made with me or my participation in and promotion of their event. To this date, I have received zero payment whatsoever for my participation in Anarchadelphia 2019. I am currently owed a total of $13,520 by Carmen Carangi and Sonny Mazzone of the State of Anarchy, a figure pulled completely out of his ass. That's based on a rough count of the number of people counted by Leah, not an actual count of the people that bought tickets, just by the way, which is a different number too, because I'm sure there were people in there that kind of got in there without paying. And
then there's another thing
because anarchy that happens in anarchy. We'll get to that, but it happens in anarchist conventions. We kind of let people in.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Including like a lot of What on Earth is Happening people who got in for free and didn't pay for tickets.
Well, again, we're almost done this thing. Patrick Leach made a payment to the State of Anarchy to honor his portion of the agreement in full and has since disassociated with the State of Anarchy shortly after he found out that Carmen had made an agreement that he was not privy to. The funds that Patrick Leach provided were used by the State of Anarchy to pay back a loan, an action that was meant to secure another loan to pay me in full. The second loan was denied, and despite almost 2.5 months of attempting to communicate and resolve the issue, I am now releasing this information publicly in an attempt to briefly explain my position and inform the community of the events that transpired. As a side note, What on Earth is Happening is still on good terms with Patrick Leach, and we consider him a valuable colleague and hope to work with him again in the future. Carmen and Sonny have not demonstrated to me that they are taking the situation seriously enough. They have thus far failed to come up with an acceptable remedy for what amounts to embezzling a large sum of money with which they were entrusted. To date, their most recent offer to fix the situation was to ask me to participate in a multi-level marketing program with them. Again, not true. I have become aware that Carmen and Sonny are working with some of my associates, and I am communicating this information in the hope that something like this does not happen to anyone else. My assistant, my colleagues, and I worked for months to prepare the material that was featured in Anarchadelphia 2019.
Oh, well, like the documentary. Is that what he's talking about?
I would assume. Funds raised from the conference were meant to help me continue my work for at least the next 6 months. Currently, we were unable to proceed with any work whatsoever with this devastating setback. We are now working to regroup and move forward, producing content, working on the documentary, and restarting What on Earth is Happening weekly show in early 2020. I will be doing a full show to explain the situation in depth when I am able to restart What on Earth is Happening. Thank you all for your continued support, and thank you for your patience and kind thoughts as we work our way back up to speed. I testify to the truth of all above statements. Mark Passio. What on Earth is Happening? Donations, gift, and holiday season right below that. So if you want to give a gift. Now, okay, that was a lot.
That was a lot.
That was a lot to take in.
And I'd be willing to go back to the beginning and address it point by point if you want.
I would like to do that. Now, let's start with some of the mischaracterizations.
Yeah, those are the most important ones. Because, again, he did say he testified to the truth of all these statements. Right. So we're going to get a look at what Mark considers to be the truth. There is an official press release that we're going to be having, like, I guess, like, you call it a counter blog. I don't know what you would call it.
Just a response.
Yeah, essentially a public response that's in the description of this audio podcast and also on all of the State of Anarchy social media as well as the Anarchadelphia social media. You can take a read at that. But this is going to be more of a, sort of me and Sonny telling the story of how it all happened.
Well, let me give him the short, and then you can kind of get, because I'll give the nuts and bolts, so you can give the personal insight. Because
sounds good. I like that.
Because Carmen has a lot more personal connections with Mark and has worked with him closely on a number of projects. I'm more of a friendly acquaintance. I mean, that's talked to him on the phone and had to dealt with him in this situation. But again, what has essentially happened was, or what it comes down to is maybe we can call it a series of miscommunications. Essentially, the situation was this.
A series of unfortunate events.
Leading up into the organizing in Anarchadelphia, Mark had requested of us, or actually more demanded of us, that he have a 6-hour block for a 6-hour block for a workshop that he wanted to have. First, he wanted to have it like kind of parallel to our event.
Actually, let's take it back even a little bit before that. When we pitched the idea of Anarchadelphia to Mark, which ironically was pitched to us by Mark in 2018 in Anarchapulco, but he had agreed to speak on multiple occasions without any mention of a workshop.
Right. He that's the thing.
That's
he
the first
frames his argument as though his participation and his material was all predicated on
this workshop.
Or
getting paid in some regard. Right, he had already agreed to speak,
and in fact, he actually was the only speaker in the entire event who
lived in the city that the event was at,
and actually expected payment. So, here the situation was as follows. So, Mark requests to have this workshop. He wants it to be 6 hours long. We, not wanting to have a parallel 6-hour event going on while speakers are speaking at our event, decide to get a smaller venue to accommodate this.
For the next day.
We extended
a day.
We extended the day. Now, prior to this, we actually in the lead up to Anarchadelphia, we were very unsure as to how these workshops were going to turn out. We actually thought we might take a we are taking a loss because of Mark. We actually thought we might take a premonition. We didn't even know if we would make back the money for the room because we had a lot of.
We had to book a whole nother day.
Right, because we had to book a whole nother day, and they, as anything else, ticket sales are slow, and they kind of pick up as the event nears.
So basically, once we started noticing that people were electing to just go to Mark's workshop, we realized that was creating just financial strain on the conference.
So we tasked Pat who was close with this guy Mike, who was giving us $1,000. We tasked Pat with talking to Mark, letting him know that we're giving him $1,000 and letting him know that was going to go towards our payment to him, and to at least see if that was an acceptable number or whatever.
To essentially consolidate the workshop is just a fourth day that people were buying tickets.
Exactly. So we wanted to pay him up front. And
we wanted to. We actually did.
Well, we did pay him up front. What ended up happening was Pat did not
explain to him the situation.
So Pat facilitated, and again, it wasn't anybody's fault. I don't think it was malicious, but what the actual $1,000 was for was not made explicitly clear.
But it was taken by Mark.
But it was taken. Now let's fast forward to our event. Now here's the kicker, though. Now, if you want to say that because of the fact that wasn't explicitly made clear to Mark, that therefore that wasn't valid or that doesn't suffice as the entirety of what he's owed, okay. But every other speaker who conducted a workshop for the entirety of Anarchadelphia was under the impression, not under the impression, but under the guidelines of a 75-25 split. 25% was going to recoup the cost of the venue. And the fact that we flew people out and all that stuff. Mark, who required an entirely different space, who required
another
an entirely new another day, he claims that he was not made aware of that arrangement, that policy. Now, we didn't send out any official documentation. We kind of were off
because only a few speakers wanted to do workshops. It was only like a handful.
So we
had like
we were kind of off the
workshops.
books. Yeah, everything was very informal, and maybe that was our mistake as well.
But the other thing I would like to point out is there wasn't an issue with any other speaker.
Correct. So
I mean, there was the same It was the same verbal agreements with them as well.
So the actual offer that we did come to arrange, that we actually gave to Mark, wasn't $1,000. What we actually said to him was this: would you be willing to abide by the 75-25% split of the profit that we made an arrangement with everyone else? We already gave you $1,000. And would you be willing to do a 75-25% split? Mark's response was, number one, the $1,000 doesn't count towards anything because of the fact that I was not originally made aware of it. So even though
his exact words were, I believed Pat was facilitating a donation.
So, and even though we made him aware that was supposed to at least go towards what we owed you. I mean, maybe
at the very least, even if we were hoping it would settle the issue.
But even if it's not, I mean, even that's not the entirety of what you want. If we even were to do this 25-75 split. We thought it would go towards it. He said no. He also said no to the 25-75 split, even though that was the standard for everyone else at the event. Which, again, if that's what we kind of budgeted for, and if that's what he would have accepted, he would have been taken care of by now.
Yeah.
Now, the actual number that he writes in his Facebook post is 13,500, something like that. That's kind of the most dicked part about it, because not only did he not accept the $1,000 that we gave him as any sort of payment
towards the debt,
not did he accept the 75-25 split that every other speaker was okay with, that also required less of
that. They did it on lunch breaks.
Right, they did it on lunch breaks.
Derek did it Sunday at the fucking park.
Right, we had to actually organize and produce and come up with the equipment for an entire day. Not only that, but he does not agree that any of the money that it costs to rent out of the venue should be deducted too, because he's actually being disingenuous. He wants to talk about conversations with witnesses. A conversation that we had that was a conversation that took place between Mark, Carmen, Pat, Leah, and I. We were all on the line. The final figure was 11.5 because of the fact that even though it was more than 2,000, he was willing, out of the goodness of his heart,
to accept 100% of the profits for the day of Monday.
But no, I'm saying he was willing. But the last time we spoke to Mark on the phone, he was willing to accept that $2,000 be deducted from whatever he was going to get,
because that's what it cost.
Because that was the venue claim. That's fair, right?
For that day, for the extension.
That number's not accounted for in his Facebook post, and apparently he was doing us a favor because he felt that we were entitled, we were obligated not only to give him 100% of the profit, but to actually eat the $2,500 or whatever fee that it cost
to host the event.
To host the event in the first place, maybe 22, whatever it was. I could show the bill, but it was over 2. So, and again, we marketed it online, we paid online. Maybe people who went to the event know we did, get some charged taxes and sales taxes and stuff, which sucks. But we didn't want to expose ourselves.
We're under duress, essentially.
We're under duress. I mean, we are engaging with mainstream banking and PayPal.
We accept Bitcoin, but ironically, even though we accepted Bitcoin, most people paid with credit cards.
Right. So again, like, it is what it is. The situation that we ended up at the same time that this was happening with Pat, I'm sorry, with Mark. Pat was in the process of leaving the State of Anarchy. Mm-hmm. We, again, not to slight him in any way, I actually respect him as an artist and a technician and even as a partner for the time we were partners. But we had some differences in philosophy, we had some differences in temperament, we had some kind of heated arguments, and it was just best that we went separate ways. I mean, not just me. I'm saying Carmen and I and Pat.
Yeah, it was becoming unstable.
And again, so he opted out. We at the time owed PayPal about $4,600 or $4,500.
Yeah, we took that out. We took that out a week before the conference because we didn't know what to expect for the last week of sales.
Right, because we were actually operating in the red
the entire time.
The entire time. So we took out a loan with PayPal. Our final offer to Mark was this. The figure that he agreed to was $11,500 or whatever. He agreed to that. We said we have all probably like over 6,000 available to us or something like that. It was probably about 6. We will give this to you today. We'll send you all our Bitcoin. We'll send you all our... Now, mind you, that's 6,000. We owe 4,500. So that's like I'm not trying to give our finances, but I'm sure you guys can do math. That's about $1,500.
Yeah.
Left over. But we were willing to pay, to drain our accounts, give him everything we had, and then pay him off incrementally when we got it. He denied it. He said that
he wouldn't accept a single dollar.
He wouldn't accept a dollar. He wouldn't accept upwards of $6,000 as an upfront payment. Even though I thought he was being very unreasonable, very selfish, quite frankly, and he frames it as embezzlement, which is kind of jerked off. We were facilitating an entire event. We were the producers of it.
And let's not forget that the documentary that he claims he worked so hard on was actually worked on every day by me while I was planning this event, and I did not get paid a cent for it by Mark Passio.
Right. I mean, Mark expects a lot done for him for free, but then it came to the point where I was saying, I said to him, well, we were doing 75-25 split. He was like, well, that was not explicitly told to me. Well, I felt like I thought it was. I mean, Carmen remembers having a conversation. Well, because it's not in writing and I don't remember it. It's just, well, listen, he claims that the conversation never happened. Carmen claims that it did. I wasn't there. I believe my friend. But at the end of the day, he couldn't even be reasonable and say, all right, well, maybe I forgot, or maybe it wasn't told to me out of mistake, whatever the case may be. Every other speaker accepted a 75-25 split. A 75-25 split would have been like $8,000 or something. Yeah. We would have gave him 6,000 of it, or 7,000 almost. We could have had
him paid off by now.
We actually were going to go out of pocket more, right? He would have been paid off by now if he would accept the initial 6,000.
We would have had to still owe PayPal all this money, but he demanded that an entire lump sum be paid to him because he didn't want to, I guess, essentially deal with being owed money and having to keep track of what we didn't have.
So here was the plan. So as that Pat was leaving, And at Pat's suggestion, Mark requested that we pay off the loan to PayPal in the hopes that by paying off that loan, we would qualify for a new loan that we could take out and then pay him in full. So Pat put money toward, and when I say the 45...
you said 6, which is including the money.
That's including what I'm saying now is
Pat was essentially trying to buy himself
Pat
out.
bought him. Yes, Pat kind of gave us about $2,000. We spent all of that plus the money we had in our bank account to
pay PayPal
back,
and then to apply for another loan,
and we were denied, as Mark does say, which was his idea because he didn't want to accept $6,000 up front and then a payment plan for the rest. We were, and again, I am willing to, and
it was all we had. That's the other point.
We were willing to give every single dime we had to him to make him happy, and then we were asking maybe could we just pay you off over time when we have it. We are not. Embezzlement is a very
fucking loaded
and jerked off term because we were operating in the red the entire time. As most conferences do, and even. Again, we were under the impression that at the very least, Mark was going to accept the 75-25 split that every single speaker had agreed to. Mm-hmm. We didn't have contractual agreements with everyone. I just find it hard to believe that every single speaker was made aware, but not him. But even if he wasn't, that was the policy that we were operating under. Mm-hmm. So if we were short of the funds, it wasn't because we embezzled it. It's because we made a mistake.
Yeah.
It's because we actually made a mistake.
And then the fucked up part is we tried day by day, week by week after the conference to rectify that mistake. Whether it was giving them all the money that we had, whether it was, I even offered to work for the documentary to finish it because it was pretty close to being done. It was the rough cut, but it only needed a few micro edits. And then I guess, Mark likes to overlay a couple different images because to be perfectly honest, me and Leah did most, if not all of the editing. Basically what had happened was we would work at my house. We worked at Mark's house for a little bit, but Mark was getting too stressed out from us working at his house, I guess. I guess he didn't like having company or something. So I offered my house as the spot to do the documentary. We had me and another editor. The other editor was getting paid somehow, but whatever. We had me and the other editor working on it pretty much every day when the summer rolled through. Not to mention I had been working on it since the previous year. And to think that after all of that work, and all of the energy I put into it, the filming. We went out and filmed the whole thing. We went out and found the people that were asked the natural law questions. I scored the whole thing. I scored the soundtrack for it. And to think that he couldn't even be reasonable as we tried to rectify the mistake of, what went wrong with, the workshop situation. To think that we couldn't even come to a reasonable agreement where it's okay, this is how we'll get together moving forward and we'll work together on this and we'll get this resolved because our connection in the freedom movement is more important than money that is owed, especially since you guys are trying to pay me. The fact that after all of the work that was put in to make that documentary great by myself and the others, not to mention the conference and the workshop, that we couldn't resolve this amicably and that he wouldn't accept any money from us, and then would try to frame it saying on his post that they given me so far $0. First of all, he already did accept $1,000 from us, and then second of all, he declined another $6. So to frame it like we gave him $0 after all the hard work I poured in that fucking documentary, it just, I'm sour. I'm not gonna lie. I feel salty.
And listen, and here's another thing. So the position we were in was, we ended up paying off this loan. We had access to, in terms of money we had access to, we had about $1,500 at our disposal. By the way, an amount that he wouldn't have accepted. If he wasn't going to accept 6, why would he have accepted less than 2? Yeah. But here's the problem with that. We also are a year away from our next conference. We have normal jobs. We had no real way to make money. Other than us working, which again, we're doing everything we can. We're trying to find a business model to make the money back for him. And we wanted to make money back.
So then out of the sky, Richard Grove hits me up right after the conference. Richard Grove is somebody who Mark Passio has interviewed and has been interviewed by multiple times.
Tell him who Richard Grove is and what he represents.
So we met Richard Grove at the Red Pill Expo in June. He has the Tragedy and Hope podcast, which is a great alternative media podcast. They interview all the important people, including Mark Passio. He's been on that podcast. They're friends. And Richard Grove and his community and his podcast, like that whole entire community sort of like birthed this program called Autonomy, which we've talked about a few times on the channel, which is like sort of like this unschooling curriculum that helps people really like learn things that help in traditional sense from like in this new age of digital media and marketing, and also how to have the mindset of success. It's really empowering stuff. And Mark didn't even look into it. He wouldn't even answer the email that we sent about it.
It wasn't it's not a multi-level marketing.
It's a product that we have an affiliate commission for.
It's an educational product.
Yeah, it's not multi-level. It's not like sell this CBD.
It's not Herbalife or whatever. Yeah, you don't need to.
He didn't even look. He didn't even look into it.
We said to him, listen, we have this association with Richard Grove. We really respect his product. Me and Carmen are ourselves members, and we take the classes. We stand behind it. If you look into it and you support it, maybe you can throw it out there to your 60,000 or whatever subscribers, and
if a handful of them are interested in it, we could pay the debt on Thursday.
Right. Again, that was suggested as just a way to, in the short term, at least get some money towards them. We promised to give 100% of whatever we made.
This was after the whole loan thing, when we basically spent all the money we have as per his request.
Right.
So we had to basically bootstrap it. We had to, after the conference was over, have to make all the money we owe Mark and pay.
And here's the thing.
And we actually had a decent way to do it.
What's actually funny is this. The reason why we said this to Mark is because we were trying to figure out a way to pay him sooner rather than later. Yeah. Because we actually
the process.
We have some other products that are coming. We have some other events we're involved in. There's so many good, positive things that I actually wanted to talk about on this podcast that we're going to get to. But that also, if Mark was a little less myopic, could actually see that would help him get his would actually help him get his money. Exactly. Would actually help him get paid. Now, that's the position we're in. I find Mark's response to be very, very saddening that they would kind of stoop to that level to not only air it out, but to make it seem as though we were stealing from him and didn't offer him any sort of payment.
Or didn't try to resolve it over and over again.
If you read that and take that at face value, you would think that we offered him $1,000. Our final offer was $1,000 and a handshake, which was actually $11,500 with a $6,000 upfront down payment. Again, we could have been, if he would have accepted an incremental payment plan, we could have been well on our way.
Yeah. And then he framed it like we didn't offer him nothing. You know
so
what I mean?
that is where we are. If he thinks that we're if we're embezzlers, we're the worst embezzlers in the world. Because
yeah, we really.
I mean, honestly, like between our business, our personal finance, I mean, we're the worst embezzlers. And listen, even Pat, who is not with us anymore, and probably he might not have the best thing to say about us, but he knows what our finances were. He knows we don't have secret money hidden under the mattress. We had a little bit of crypto and a little bit of money in the bank. That was it. And again, that's not what Mark was not willing to accept that as a payment, or at least he didn't make it clear to us. I mean,
he tried to get us to. He made us use it to pay for another loan. That never happened.
Here's another thing that I want to mention. Leah, everything's. Here's another thing I find interesting.
This is crazy.
Let me state this. Mark is a person that's very hard to actually speak to in person. He claims that he's too busy to have conversations or on his own behalf. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. Carmen could speak to what he does on his personal time far more than me. But we were trying to have an actual face-to-face conversation, or at the very least a phone conversation with him for a number of weeks, and we kept getting the runaround. And
it never happened.
And Leah, who is his assistant, was the only person we were able to actually speak to, and hear a voice with. Leah wanted us to sign a contract that would lay out and this was after we already made the payment for the loan. This is when we only had a little bit of money. Leah wanted to make us sign a contract that would explicitly state the terms of repayment and the time periods and all when that would be owed. I said to her that we couldn't make a document like that, and I couldn't sign it with full confidence because I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean the fact is,
you're trying to get us to back ourselves into a corner with this crazy shit.
It's because we don't know. We didn't at the time. We actually didn't have many things going. Right now, we have a couple more things going on that are hopefully are going to be fruitful for us. But at the time, we actually didn't have anything going on other than like our own personal, individual ways of making money, which again,
very blue collar.
Yeah, very blue collar. We're not lighting the world on fire. Like, I mean, we're paying our bills barely. And again, that's not like boo. Like, we're not
trying to play victims.
Because we're not asking you for money. Anything that we sell to you is a product. You don't like it, you don't buy it.
Yeah, we have a very anarcho-capitalist philosophy where we believe offering value is how you get by in this world.
Right, and I get it. Like, you're listening to like our podcast, and you can argue like this is value, but like, all right, we live in the modern world where media is accessible at your fingertips. Like, Mark's gotta stop crying about it, and I don't know. We don't beg for money.
Yeah.
If we want you to give us money, we're gonna give you something in exchange, and if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you don't have to barter with us.
Exactly.
But
that's where we stand, man.
That's pretty much where we're at. I mean, we
like it says in the statement, we're open to all resolutions with Mark. We're open into working, all this out.
We fully intend on...
The last communication was an unanswered email that we sent him.
The last communication, we could have actually... If they could have actually responded and said, fuck you, we don't like that idea.
They didn't even tell us what they thought of the idea. They just went public.
Think of something else. And at least it would have been a dialogue. We were not avoiding the conversation at all.
Yeah.
We actually have been in active communication with Leah, trying to talk to Mark.
We actually went and knocked for him, and he wouldn't answer the door. I've been in his house. I've gone in his house millions of times. I've never been unwelcome there.
He lives down the street from Carmen.
Yeah, he lives around the corner. It's not like hard to get in touch.
And
with him.
I mean, we showed up at his house to like just talk to him. I mean,
have a discussion.
I don't understand. One of the first things that Mark said to me was that he doesn't like sycophants. I respected that sentiment, and but it doesn't seem like he actually lives by that, because he needs intermediaries to actually have any sort of conversations. He needs to have everything he does.
He won't answer texts.
He won't answer texts, emails, calls, everything. I mean, listen, just to be. I'll let Carmen fill you in on the inner workings of the Passio machine, but he delegates everything. I mean,
that's another thing I would like to touch on.
Again, listen, I'll let Carmen say, because I don't know from personally. This is what Carmen says, but Carmen will tell you that he delegates far more than he produces.
I mean, basically, like, these are things that I would have never said otherwise, but because of the situation, I just have to be honest. Like, he's making these claims on this post that, he puts together these presentations and these workshops and these documentaries. He wasn't there for the documentary. How the documentary got produced was, I edited a very rough cutting beginning. Then me and Leah started working on it together, where essentially she kind of ran the decision-making process for the most part. I mean, I had creative input, but I sort of felt like I was kind of just like making edits for it.
Now, listen.
But Mark was not present at any of these things. Mark was not present at all. What happened was, every once in a while, he would watch a cut, rip it to shreds, and then we would have to go redo the documentary.
Now, what was your role? Just to be clear for the audience, what was your role on the Passio documentary?
I was the lead editor, and Lee even made a post. I'm not sure if that post exists anymore, but there was a post.
And what was the title of the documentary?
The Mark Passio and the Science of Natural Law, which he's claiming still needs to be finished.
Now, you were paid a little bit in the beginning, right? How much were you actually paid?
Let's get into that.
Yeah, because they're going to make that statement, and I want you to think.
Essentially, when this project first came about, Pat and I were living together, because this was after we met in Anarchapulco, and he knew a guy named Mike Martin, my man, love you, Mike, who was a really big fan of Mark Passio and wanted to get involved. So when Mark talked about this documentary, Pat talked to Mike about sponsoring it so that we could get paid to film it. So Mike sponsored it a few times. He basically gave us like 1 or 2 checks, and then by that time we had most of the footage shot. Then it came time for the editing phase, and Pat was supposed to edit the documentary, and he went to Costa Rica instead.
So how much were you paid?
I was paid approximately 3 months rent, 3 to 4 months rent, which amounts to like $3,000 to $4,000, and it was from Mike Martin's pocket.
So $3,000 to $4,000. Then how?
And that went to straight to bills.
Okay, but how long were you actually working on this project?
All right, so we shot it in late 2018. I started editing around November, I would say, by myself, because I was under the impression that Pat left after Steamfest. He went to Costa Rica. I wasn't supposed to edit this. See, this is what happened. Like, Pat was supposed to edit this, and this is supposed to be his project, and I was just supposed to do some other shit. I really wasn't supposed to work on this documentary. When Pat left, there was no editor. So I was like, well, I'll do it, I guess. And then when Mike found out I was doing it, he agreed to pay me for it since I was doing all of the editing by myself at that time.
But you were only paid for a couple months in the beginning. It
was pretty much November to Anarchapulco. From Steamfest to Anarchapulco, Mike floated my rent so that I could make it to Anarchapulco and still work on this documentary. That's essentially what happened.
So which is what, November to February?
November to February.
And then from February until...
From February till the conference, it was
February,
pro bono.
So you work for free from February to September.
Yeah, and that was actually the more stressful meat and potatoes part. See, because I was under the impression that once Pat wasn't the editor and they gave the job to me, that I would just be able to edit it. But that's not what I got signed up for. Once Leah came over with the project, it became way more intensive because they became very like, I don't know how to phrase this other than like nitpicky and very... They like to redo things a lot. They like to make a lot of change, micromanaging, and like they're never satisfied. Like, but this part's bad. Let's change it. And then okay, we changed it. All right, I don't like what we changed it to. Let's change it again to something else.
And again, maybe that's part of the creative process. But how many hours? But I want to get to the point that how unappreciative. First of all, Mark seems to be for your contribution. Because okay, here's the thing. Carmen's me like say that everything was on the up and up and like they nitpicked or whatever, but we ended up all being friends. Carmen would never say any of this.
Yeah,
but
I would never say this.
So how many hours? How often were you working, and how many hours a day would you, on average, say you worked in his documentary?
So in the very beginning, around right when we got back from Anarchapulco, it was just once a week for about like 6 hours a day. So that lasted for about a month or two, and then Leah started getting nervous because it was getting to be like June, and she was like all upset that like we didn't think she was making enough process. So once the summer hit, we started doing 3 days a week, and this was just when it was just me and Leah. So 3 days a week, about pretty much 6 to 8 hours a day. And that was the entire summer up until August. And then when everything started hitting in August, as far as the conference stepping up, they hired another editor who would split days. So, but then once August rolled around, it turned into every day. It turned into 5 days a week once August rolled around. And then by September, it was 7 days a week. So me and this other editor would split time 5 to 7 days a week for the last couple months.
And you hadn't at this point been paid since
February.
Okay, so that's, I mean, again, that was something that Carmen did because he just wanted to help.
Because it was all connected. Because it was about the conference. It was about the movement. It was about natural law. It was about teaching people about human freedom. It was about making people aware and raising consciousness. That's what it was all about.
And what's so funny is there was an editor that was being paid, even though, and despite the fact that you did the bulk of the work. I mean, and I'm not taking anything away from that other editor.
As far as timeline is concerned.
Just in terms of timeline and actual hours put into the project. Yeah. You were paid, I mean, I don't know how much she was actually paid, but you were essentially not paid for 8 or 9 months of worth of work.
Yeah.
A project
which, Joe, honestly, as it was happening, I was totally cool with, because I thought we were all friends here and we were all like, warriors in the battle, as Mark loves to put it. You know what I mean?
Right. And it just seems as though, I don't know. I mean, it seems as though that when it comes to giving and not receiving, he's not as much of a team player. Again, like I'm saying all of this, I understand if you're a hardline business type person, you're like, all right, your agreement is agreement. Yes, I understand. Mm-hmm. Our agreement with him, despite the fact that I find it unfair, unreasonable, and greedy on his part, what we actually decided on just to placate him was 11.5. We wouldn't deduct taxes from it, but we would deduct the $2,000 or so.
The extra cost for having an extra venue and an extra day.
Right, which again, Mark disingenuously left out of his post.
Yeah, among other things.
That's what our actual final number was that we agreed to.
Mm-hmm. This is when it's by everybody involved.
This was when it's everyone myself. And our offer was, we have at our disposal around $6,000 or whatever. Maybe we were even thinking about coming out of our own pockets and giving a little bit more just to kind of show good faith. But this is what we have. We're willing to drain our bank account to give you an upfront payment.
And then pay the rest off.
And then pay the rest off, as we have it. That was rejected outright. It was rejected outright, and a cockamamie scheme was hatched by someone. I don't know who, so I'm not going to attribute blame, but if it was presented to us as pretty much our only option to pay off this PayPal loan and try to get another loan for them. Apparently PayPal's not stupid. Apparently PayPal kind of saw, because the thing about PayPal is when they determine whether or not you're going to get a loan.
They monitor your live sales in
Exactly.
real time. So this deliberation had gone on for a couple of weeks, and once they saw that nothing was coming in after September, 7th, 16th, 15th, 16th. Once that date stopped and the whole thing flatlined, PayPal was like, well, we're not going to give these guys money.
Right. So that's where we are. And again, I think this is a good place to end it.
Yeah, I think that's like our touch on the situation as far as like how much we were getting in on this podcast.
And I just find it. I just want to end it on I find it very offensive how Mark went about it. I understand that he's not happy with it, and maybe as first-time conference organizers, we had made mistakes, and we hadn't been.
And we're not saying that we didn't.
No, we're not saying we didn't at all. But what we're saying is, we were. If you want to call us inept, maybe that's what we were. Maybe for our first-time conference, we definitely were inept in some ways. Embezzlers, that's another. That's a mischaracterization.
It's fucked up.
And
especially in light of everything we've done.
Exactly, and I think that I just want that to be put out there, mostly to the Passio fans, because I understand that you respect this guy and his work, and I do as well.
Man. I mean, I was his biggest fan. It's fucking crazy.
He puts out great. He puts out some really good content, and he's illuminating in a lot of ways. But he's not a perfect person, as none of us are. And I think that he is, at the very least, even if he's not, I think he showed bad form. And he was.
What my sister said? She said somebody with a kind heart wouldn't do that.
I agree. I mean, I agree. I understand no one's obligated to be charitable. I mean, that's why it's charity. That's why it's voluntary. I get that, but I know from personal experience, like I know how I am when I have money, and when I have money at my disposal. And I know how generous I mean, and I pretty much know how I would handle that situation if had I been Mark. I would have been, 75-25 is pretty nice. I'm walking out here with $7,500. By the way, Mark had no idea of what the turnout was going to be.
No one did. We had to change the room. We had to upgrade to the best room in the fucking venue the day of.
The day of, we literally had to exactly.
So all the sales came in at the very end.
So don't let him. Don't let him characterize it as he was creating this material and banking on making all this money. Like he actually,
they were so surprised.
They were so surprised.
Turnout.
So
they were mind blown.
So right, we were.
That's not how it was.
So even if they only were going to accept the 11.5 or even the 13.5, which is unreasonable, and again,
not what he agreed to.
Not what he agreed to. But even if that's what it is, if he was not expecting such a turnout, like whatever his expected cost, whatever he was expecting to make back, I'm sure 6,000 or 7,000 would at least covered it or covered a lot of it, or at least helped him out. I mean, he's crying about some wall that's falling down in his house. I mean, I don't know what...
That would have been very helpful for that.
I mean, listen, again, I don't know how much walls cost, but I'm sure 6,000 would have helped a little bit. So, again, like... That's where we're at. We have some other announcements too that I really am more excited to talk about. If you made it through this, you deserve it.
Yeah. Can I just say my little closing statement?
Yeah, let's close it out, Carmen. Then let's read. And Carmen's got a list.
I would just say that, like, I don't know, Mark, if you're listening to this, dude, I love you. I'm glad that we were able to work on what we did, and I'm glad that we created what we did. And I just feel like it's kind of underappreciated for how much I really valued you and how much I tried to help, man. From whether it was getting you back to Anarchapulco the second time, helping this documentary out.
You know what? Let's talk about that for a second. There's
more to the story.
And there is so much. There's a lot more, and I wanted to end it just because I don't want to keep harping on this point, and I'm sure people are more interested than the internal politics of Anarchadelphia.
Yeah.
But I mean, but listen, that is true. Like,
he did the same thing to Jeff Berg because Jeff Berg owed him an audio file, which is way less than what we owed him.
Right.
He burnt the bridge with Anarchapulco, and then I basically was in conversation with Jeff, and I was able to I'm like, yo, look, I'm still with Mark. I can kind of get him to get over this. And I basically got them to get back, and the whole Mark's most recent video, it's Anarchy in the Occult Part 2, wouldn't exist if I didn't do that. Which is so frustrating. And he just goes so undervalued.
And he also did something similar where he had a public I guess temper tantrum, or whatever you want to call it, where he
he ripped on Anarchapulco.
Was snapping on Berwick for not getting him. Again, I mean, they're running.
And little did he know, Berwick was in fucking Somalia with no signals. It was when they went to Somalia.
But again, that's to me, when you take things like that as personal slights and you take them that hard, to me, you have either an inflated ego or you're childish.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's all about this righteous anger, but I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. You were a bigger Passio fan than I was, not because of anything to do with his content, all to do with my disagreement with his form. I think it's childish.
Yeah.
I don't agree with yelling at your audience. I don't agree with. I think it's very self-congratulatory as to how he portrays himself, how he portrays his work. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the actual content and his message and any of that, but the righteous anger, I think that's a very convenient cop-out for someone who's never actually been able to control their anger, for someone who's never actually been able to control their emotions, someone who's never actually been able to take the mature high road. Maybe not to say never, but like tends not to. I mean, listen, judge for yourself. You guys, if you're listening to this, you probably watch Mark enough. What kind of person do you think he is in his private life? Do you think he is, because Carmen may speak to this on a more personal level. This is me observing from the outside. Carmen has seen it from the inside. Does he seem like a nice person? Not a nice person. Let me say, by nice, I mean, let me qualify that. Does he seem like a patient person? Does he seem like a considerate person? Does he seem like a person that tries not to hurt people's feelings or tries not to demean others? Does he seem like a person who's in control of his emotions? This guru who so self-righteously tells other people how to live their lives and why they're scum and why they're not doing the right, why they're not solving the problem, whatever problem it may be. Does he seem like someone who is in control of his own faculties, or not faculties, his own behavior to the degree that someone so preachy should be? I don't know. Carmen has some anecdotal stories that kind of attest to where he feels Mark is on that. Why don't you say, listen, honestly, we were going to stop here, but I want to let it, I'm not one to pull punches. And if someone's going to air us out like this,
especially after somebody takes a shot.
Yeah, if someone's going to air us out like that, I'll let you know how I feel, Mark. And I would have told you in person when I knocked on your door.
That's true. I mean, there's been multiple occasions where I've had to actually physically console Leah because Mark was having what I would amount to like a temper tantrum over something completely meaningless, like a technical issue or something, you know what I mean? And literally he's freaked out so much that it actually made her unstable to the point where she broke down into tears multiple times. I mean, and that became a regular occurrence after a while. And I mean, why? Why would you do that? Why? How can you especially somebody who's supposed to be your ace, your A1, you know what I mean? Your number one assistant, your lawyer for situations like this. You're just going to make her cry because you're pissed off at your computer? Or because you're pissed off that you don't think enough people get your message? Yeah, just somebody who would make their assistant cry like that's kind of corny.
Okay, I mean, listen, again, maybe it's petty. But
it's fucked up, dude.
But I think, but again, I think it's petty to air your private grievances out. And no, it's to mischaracterize it on Facebook, because here's the thing too. He's claiming that he's doing it so his other associates will be aware. But in all reality, if he was being honest about what happened, it was an honest mistake, an honest case of miscommunication, whatever the case may be. It wasn't. We did not set out to produce a conference and work our asses off for the better part of a year just to rob Mark Passio, to have some sort of shiesty dealings with him. Clearly, things did not go according to plan in that regard. But again, it wasn't intentional. We did make what I think was a reasonable offer, especially based on the fact that it was everything we had. Mm-hmm. I mean, we couldn't have made a more reasonable offer because there wasn't anything left to offer. Mm-hmm. Just before you judge, at least be aware of that. At the very least, be aware of the fact that we try to show good faith, to show the fact that we were willing to pay this down, to show the fact that we took this debt seriously, despite the fact that I still think he was wrong personally, as on a personal level. We made the attempt and we were rebuffed and then mischaracterized. I think the kind of person that does that is kind of a dick. And you know what? Honestly, Carmen, me and Carmen had a conversation, and I said I was going to hold off on this, and I decided just now not to. And here's why.
Let's get into it.
I have a question for Mark. This is actually directed towards Mark, and I would like to cut this in an individual segment so people who don't listen to the rest of this
they can hear
get
it.
this part. Because here's my question. This is not a assertion of Mark. This is only a restatement of what Mark says, what he claims, what he uses as backing for his credentials as to why he's knowledgeable and why he has insight into certain things. Mark has made the claim, and on many occasions, I mean, it's part of his backstory, that he was involved in satanic occultism, that he was a priest or some sort of official, I don't know what you want to call it, I don't know what term, so I'm going to be very general, in a satanic religion. He's also made the claim that I've heard that he has firsthand knowledge of high-ranking police officers that are satanic in these satanic cults, and also that these same high-ranking police officers and other cult members have ritually murdered and sexually assaulted and raped people, and then the police have covered it up. He has said that to me. He has made those claims. I'm sure fans of his might be able to find something where he makes a statement like that. But that's something that he has stated. If that's true, if that is true, why has he not named names? Why is there not a person that has been from, his mouth to God's ears or whatever the fucking phrase? Like, why has he not put anyone on blame? Why has he not identified a victim? Why has he not? Now you can make the argument he's afraid. Okay. I mean, should maybe a leader in the movement should probably not be afraid to speak such truths. How can we judge people like Hillary Clinton or John Podesta, or even, let's not even say them, somebody like that? How could we judge someone like their assistants or something who may be privy to, certain corruptions, or say, or certain, whatever the case may be. Like someone who's a witness and doesn't speak, according to Mark, I would think, is just as culpable. Mark's always all about the responsibility of the individual, and you should quit your job if you're working for the government or oppressing people. You should be personally accountable. If you're not, you're a piece of shit. Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what he says. Mark, I'm not saying you're a piece of shit, because I think, I'm a little more nuanced than that. I think people maybe aren't make decisions for a number of different reasons. But if this is true, if you know of people that have been ritually murdered and raped, if you know of high-ranking police officers that are currently in satanic cults, if you have this kind of first-hand knowledge, then I would request that you say something. I think it's more important than righteous anger. I think it's more important than a documentary. I think it's more important than any guest you have on your podcast. Right now, if what you say is true, there is a mother and a father of a fucking human being who either A, is completely misled about how their child died, or, I guess the alternative is B, they know and they're scared to death, but in all likelihood, they probably have no fucking clue. They probably have no idea there's a
probably just went missing one day.
So is that true? Is that not true? And I want to leave you guys with this anecdote, and then I think Carmen knows what I'm going to say. Something that Mark said to me that one of the first times I met him, and it never left me, and I tried to kind of push it to the back of my mind, and it's going to sound really silly maybe to some of you who aren't as familiar with martial arts, which I'm going to. But one of the first times I met him, he was complaining about the TSA, and I get it. TSA fucking sucks.
Yeah, fuck them.
Fuck TSA. He was playing with TSA and why he doesn't like to fly, and he feels like he's molested and all that bullshit, and I get it. And then he made a statement, and I'm not speaking verbatim, but it was to the effect of, they're lucky because if I wanted to, I could have killed everyone in that room. I'm a martial artist. I'm trained in jerk off Kwando or whatever he said, and I'm capable of killing people. I can kill people with my hands. I know how to handle that. Now, here's the thing. If you know Carmen, Carmen's a martial artist. I'm also a martial artist, but I would much less skilled than Carmen. I've been involved in wrestling since I was a kid. I currently practice Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I do a little boxing. The point is, I know I am not maybe the most skilled practitioner. I wouldn't make the claim that I could go in a room and know that I could just kill people. I actually wouldn't make that statement.
I also wouldn't make that claim.
Right. And no, do you know who else never makes that claim? Any other person that I know that is actually a legitimate martial artist. The baddest people that I know, the baddest dudes I know, guys with professional MMA records that are, in the black, not the red, don't make statements like that. They're usually
very humble.
They're usually humble, and you know why they're humble? Because here's the thing, even if they're humble, and they're also aware of the fact that you're a fucking idiot if you think that. If you think you can walk in the room and just know that you don't know on any given day. Anyone can handle. If you actually, here's the thing. Maybe I'm not a black belt, but I've been in a couple scrapes, and so me and Carmen usually been side by side.
Side by side, sometimes across the ring.
Yeah, it could go, there is no baddest guy. It can go any way. You can slip on a fucking on the floor. You know what I mean? So you can get hit with a lucky shot. You can throw a punch the wrong way and break your hand. Like, you don't know.
Yeah, I'm likening it back to like UFC 1. There's like a sumo guy versus a kickboxer. A sumo guy tried to tackle the dude. Sumo guy outweighed him by 300 pounds. Dude kicked him in the face, knocked his tooth out.
It's just the fact that you don't. I mean, and in real life situations, real martial arts, they're not that braggadocious. They're more humble, and they know that's a stupid fucking thing to say for anybody who actually knows martial arts, because they know, you still don't know.
Yeah.
You could be the most proficient, badass martial artist, and you can get hit in the temple the wrong way and go to fuck down and get a concussion or worse.
That's it.
I mean, that is what an actual practitioner of martial arts would say. And a bullshitter would say the other thing. I'll leave it at that.
And the reason why that's true is because this is why I love martial arts, is because it forges that humility in you. The reason why it's people think that the guys are like, it's the martial arts and their discipline that makes them humble. Do you know what I mean? It's what causes the humility.
And it's the awareness of the realities of combat. It's the
Yeah.
awareness of what it is. The reason why they're humble, because it's not a thing to throw to talk like that. Even if it's just braggadocious talk, like, I get it. He's actually not doing it. I mean, if you want to know my opinion, he's probably never done in his life. He never will. Be that sort of. He just likes to, like, if I just lost it, these guys would. I mean, like, everybody knows those people. But if you're actually involved in you've been in fights, you've practiced martial arts, that's not something that, like, you're a dickhead if you just think if you walk around like that. Fighting's dangerous.
Yeah.
Fighting's serious. And there's no mystical martial art that's the end all be all, that, like, some master in a mountaintop can just teach you and to beat everybody's ass. Like, that's not the way of the world. You could be the most proficient Muay Thai black belt, or you might catch some fucking just muscled up genetic freak that just hits you with a shot and knocks your head off, like a Deontay Wilder or something. Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh my God, Jesus.
Or you're saying just get hit on the button the wrong way, or just I don't know, maybe have someone not go along with your practices. I don't know. Like, I don't know what I really don't know what the martial art is that Mark has, and I'm not trying to insult.
It's Jeet Kune Do. It's Bruce Lee.
I'm not trying to insult that martial art at all, because I would think that an actual master of Jeet Kune Do.
If you look at Bruce Lee, he doesn't say things like that.
Right. Like, I'm sure a master of Jeet Kune Do would not suggest his students say something like that,
In fact,
and would also not feel that way about himself either. So it's more about the fact that, I mean, I don't know how proficient are you, if that's the kind of things you're going to say? How real are you? And if you're going to bullshit about something like that, something so petty and immature, I don't know. I mean, does that speak to your character, or maybe he just wanted to impress us? I don't know. Or maybe he really is just the Terminator and I don't know it. I mean, I guess. I mean, I'm not trying to be corny. If he wants to, like, do like a UFC like fundraiser type thing, like, I'll strap on the gloves with him. But
it's funny.
I doubt he would take me up on that. Because he could kill me.
We can make it happen in Anarchapulco, man. Anarchapulco Fight Club.
Well, he's not coming to this one, but
yeah, which it's just kind of crazy because, like, again, like, the reason why this leaves a bad taste in my mouth is because the whole point of all of this, the whole point of the State of Anarchy, the whole point of why this is happening is supposed to be about human freedom, and right now it's about, like, politicking and bashing people's, like, reputations and, like, what is the goal? To stop us from talking about truth and important issues? You don't want people to hear like important things that we agree on?
Well, I mean, I guess he would argue that he's trying to stop us from swindling other people, but again,
this free podcast.
I mean, right. I mean, listen, if you listen to this podcast and you really think that we had bad intentions or we're some sort of con artists, then I guess we'll never be able to convince you because we just pretty much laid it all on the table.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not hiding anything. I mean, we pretty much gave you the fucking dollars and cents of everything we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. I mean, we
and as a follow up to this, Mark has talked about doing an episode on his show where he recounts every detail, and as you can see, me and Sonny have our reservations about that because of the inaccuracy of the statement.
We're also blocked from his social media accounts.
Yeah, he actually preemptively blocked me on Facebook, so I couldn't respond to that chain when he put it out there.
I would like to be. I mean,
so I would like to have a voice. I would
why
like to be
why
on the
don't you
show.
invite us on, Mark? Why don't you let us call in and actually have a discussion and explain our side of the story? And
we could all just talk about it and get down to all the discrepancies and just in front of everybody so that everybody can see it.
And maybe you could talk about that ritual murder you know about too while we're at it.
Word. All right, cool.
If it comes up.
All right.
So we have some positive things to talk about too that I'm actually really excited for. I wish we could have let off with this.
It's funny, It's funny how the first podcast we had to spend almost an hour going over all this crazy shit, but it's part of the saga, man. It's part of the story.
And you know what?
Max Egan says, it's all part of the next chapter.
And you know what? When things like this happen, you actually learn who. Just like you learn who isn't genuine, you learn who is genuine. And someone who has been a very genuine friend to us and a very genuine supporter, someone who really didn't have to go out of his way, has been Michael Nymetz. And I don't know if you guys know who Michael Nymetz is. Michael Nymetz is a staple in the anarchist community. I mean, he has a beautiful home in Anarchapulco. He hosts the unofficial Anarchapulco after party every year. He's a great guy. He's a good.
Throughout the year, he's part of the Anarchapulco 365 724 or whatever.
Yeah, like he's a full-time like anarchist living out there, trying to make it work, involved in a lot of different kind of enterprises, and he also really is about empowering people. And when he heard about this, the first thing he did wasn't come to any sort of judgment. He reached out and said, "What's going on? What's the story with this? What's your side?" And we gave it to him, and he was actually kind enough to write a statement. The statement that's going to be in the description. We're going to link it. And he wrote a public statement that, if you want the short version, not listen to an hour and a half long explanation of the Anarchadelphia inner workings and finances, this is a short and sweet version. But he didn't have to do that. He spent a lot of time, and he's a busy schedule. And we're also I'm just talking about Michael to segue into another project that we're involved in.
Yeah, he along with Richard hit us up after the conference. A lot of people did. Michael's one of them, and he was talking about, getting ready for Anarchapulco this year, which is coming up in February. I believe, like, between the pre-stuff and the post stuff, it's like a whole week. And then if you count this next thing that we're about to talk about, it's even longer than that. Michael Nymetz wants to make Anarchapulco a really just dynamic experience for everybody that's involved this year, and he's actually bringing together people from all different communities,
and he's creating an event called what?
The Anarchapulco Experience.
And why don't you tell the folks at home what that is? Because I think it's an awesome idea. It's so cool.
So basically, the weekend before and the weekend after Anarchapulco, there's usually a lot of people in town because obviously they get there a few days early and after. And there's people always looking for stuff to do. And Michael Nymetz, being a guy who lives down there like all year round, loves Acapulco, and he loves the culture there, and he loves all the things to do. And we're basically putting on ancillary events throughout both of those weekends, the weekend before Anarchapulco and the weekend after Anarchapulco, that are all going to be all over Acapulco. Really accessible stuff. I think the ticket price is like $99 and you get like 6 days worth of like events. And it's going to be something really cool like that.
It's essentially going to bookend in Anarchapulco. So the 3 days prior and the 3 days after, it'll be a 6-day event. But what Michael really wants to do is he wants to allow people to experience the city and the people and some,
and the culture, what it felt like to be a part of the Anarchapulco growth there.
Exactly. And what it felt like before it turned into a 30-something 100-person event, which again, it's great, but I'm sure it lacks a little bit of intimacy, which is what this event's going to have. We're going to cap it off at around 200.
Yeah, we want it to be smaller and like the original.
Now we're going to, and a lot of the ideas, we don't have an official schedule yet, but we will be releasing that soon. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of really interesting ideas, a lot of things I think are going to be a lot of fun. We're going to mainly have I guess the ability for people to meet some of the speakers, some of the people that they kind of looked up to or really appreciate, or whose work they respect. And
that was one of the things people liked about Anarchadelphia, was the intimate setting with the speakers.
We're gonna not just workshops, but social events. I mean, we're gonna have anybody I throw out there is not confirmed. I'm just making up names. Mm-hmm. By the way, just throwing it out there. But we're gonna have we may have an event which is a workshop where somebody like just making up Larkin Rose, gives us something. But we also might maybe have a day where we do early morning yoga with Carrie Wedler at a Mayan ruin. Which is actually something we threw. I mean,
that was actually a real idea.
Maybe I don't know if Carrie would want to do that.
Carrie, if you're listening, hit us up.
We would love for you to do it, but I mean, yoga with somebody, that's something we thought too, though.
Do some MMA training. Do
MMA training. I mean, we're trying to make it a mixture of recreational, social, and educational opportunities and activities. So we're trying to have a nice combination. We're going to likely rent out a whole house to kind of have events, parties, workshops, kind of as like a central hub.
It's on the beach. It's going to be so
And then
awesome.
we're going to, have other events that are going to be at local businesses and kind of allows us to experience the culture of Mexico. Because if you go to Anarchapulco, it's very easy to just get wrapped up in the environment of the conference. Mm-hmm. Just listen, we're at a 4-star resort. It's beautiful.
It's banging.
It's some of the coolest people in the world are walking around the hallways. I mean, I understand. I mean, I completely get how you can just be.
Can't wait, honestly.
And we're not taking anything away. Again, anybody, you should stay there.
We're going. That. Yeah, we are going to be in Anarchapulco, and we are going to be in there full swing this year.
Exactly, full swing. You should experience that. But if you want to, if you're willing to stay a little bit longer. If you have the opportunity,
or come a little earlier, or both.
Come a little earlier, stay a little later. You're gonna have the opportunity to hang out with Carmen, myself, Michael, and some other
surprise guests.
Some other surprise guests that we just haven't nailed down yet, but there's some really interesting ones. And
we're gonna have a lot of fun. We sort of did this on the fly last year, if you remember.
We did. We had. Well, that's kind of how it's all organic. How this shit works out.
Yeah, Mike was there last year. We had like a mini conference. Oh man, Anastasia, Katie Aniana,
the crypto hippies.
Yeah, Juan Galt, all those people. Like they kind of like just like, let's have a one-day conference after Anarchapulco. And we actually did. I remember David Rodriguez was there.
Yeah,
and then we had parties there too. It was at this awesome compound in Bonfil, which is like one of the best neighborhoods ever.
Which is where we're trying to
yeah, we're gonna lock that up for a lot of the events. Yeah, and have a lot of fun there.
So that's one thing that we're going to be doing, and if anybody's interested, we're gonna have information on the State of Anarchy websites, and I'm sure we'll be promoting it. But another thing that we're going to be doing, which is really cool, which again we're involved with, and Michael Nymetz is partnering with us on, is we are going to have essentially this is the first episode of a series that is going to take us to Anarchapulco. Anarchapulco, we're going to be having essentially we're going to be giving you a behind the scenes, more of a vlog. We're going to be doing video when we're down there, but a behind the scenes series where we do some interviews, we show you some background stuff, but we're also going to have Michael Nymetz's beautiful, essentially mansion overlooking the Acapulco Bay.
So beautiful.
To conduct some of the more
high profile
interviews, or I guess more whatever.
Michael Nymetz is very connected to Anarchapulco. He's going to be the lead volunteer guy this year. He did it last year. He was awesome, and he's going to be able to like really connect the community and allow us to have great interviews, like serious interviews with the speakers. Like we got a little chat with Ron Paul last year, but I think this year we're going to be able to sit down and have a really nice, ask him all those burning questions that we always wanted to talk to him about.
Yes, we're just we you know us. We get the interviews. We get down there. I mean, I don't know if you know the story of how what we did last year, but we were essentially pirates. We kind of set up shop in the middle of Anarchapulco. We had a written agreement with Jeff that we were allowed to set up there. That, again, sometimes in organizations there's a miscommunication. There was a miscommunication with some other people in the
Yeah,
organization.
wait, this is actually really funny. So, yeah, this is ironic. So, the person who was running Anarchapulco last year fucked up and didn't know that we had the right to set up wherever we wanted, according to Jeff. And they gave us so much shit about it. They tried to kick us out every day. And I didn't make a video or a post about it afterwards.
Yeah, and then
I just kept like other people did,
and
but
now
I
we're-
didn't give a shit.
and now
I
we're
just-
cool. And
yeah,
now
and we're great. We don't no holds. It's fine. Like I get it that there was mistakes and miscommunications, and that's fine. We're good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but this year I think it's going to be a little bit special because we're going to have a lot more backstage access. We're going to have a lot more. We're friends with all these people now. We have a lot.
That's cool, man.
And we're going to really we're going to allow people at home to really see what they're missing because, again, Daryl Hutchins or Lux Springer or Dolan Johnson or whatever.
Let's call him Daryl Hutchins.
Daryl Bringer, Lux Hutchinson or whatever. Oh, I'm calling you. Listen, I get it. I get what you're saying. We can't just have these like mini vacation event like Disney World type anarchy things and like think that's gonna just be the only thing that changes the world. I don't think that.
Yes, Daryl.
But they're fucking fun and they actually do like help some people,
and
man.
they inspire people and they help network. Like for example, here's another philanthropic thing that happened that went unnoticed or at least unmentioned. Lynn Ulbrich, we managed to raise almost like $4,000 for her in an auction that happened in real time.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I mean, again, we
the embezzlers that we are, we embezzled $4,000 and gave it to Lynn by having an auction at Anarchadelphia for the Free Ross initiative, and like our connections with her have allowed us to do that. Like we actually made a difference for the Free Ross campaign because of Anarchadelphia, and that was just one thing that we did other than the interviews and the other stuff that we're like thinking about doing. There is a lot of good that comes from meeting in person, especially in the age of censorship where it's so hard to connect online. We have to be together and we have to mix energies and ideas so that we can go back and seed our communities with it and we essentially hyper concentrate and tune to the frequency of freedom and love, and then we go and bring that out into the world. That's how we do this. And every time I go to one of these, I just get more and more affirmed that this is the path that humanity needs to, start walking on, at least that I need to bring to the world,
For sure. I think that's why we're doing this. And that's, and again, there's no one answer to any complex problem. There's not one thing you can put your finger on and say, if this is done, it's going to bring about, paradise in our time or whatever. Not that paradise is even an achievable thing. You get my point.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree.
So if the only thing going on in the freedom community are, of paid events that cost a couple $100 to attend, I would get the point. Maybe that's from Daryl's. I don't know what to call you, man.
Daryl, just call him Daryl.
Okay, yeah, I'm not trying to be insulting. I just don't want you to take insult. You have 16 Facebooks.
Daryl, you're our boy, dude.
I don't know, and I don't know you in real life, so I don't know what to call you.
You have 16 Facebooks.
But the point.
Shout out to Daryl. We love you.
Yeah,
bro.
no, you're the man. I'm just saying, we just have some points of disagreement, and maybe there should be more in-person meetups. Maybe there should be more free content available. I'm for it all, man.
We have plenty of free content.
Listen, we're
hours.
We're trying to have events for people that can afford them, so we can provide ourselves the opportunity to
do more.
I get you. You're saying I'm addressing these specific points, but you could say it's free to disseminate information. But here's an example of something that we want to do that's going to cost money. But it's also for the greater good. Me and Carmen have been for a while now actively drafting a Ross documentary. By drafting, I mean kind of brainstorming at this point. A Ross documentary. Now, we're not announcing it because we haven't. We've spoken to Lynn about it.
There have been conversations, but
it's not. It is by no means official.
Yeah.
But again, we're honest people. I'm letting you. It's not a top secret.
We really support Lynn and her initiative, and we want to do whatever we can to help.
And this is something we want to do. We want to tell the story. Ross's story is fascinating. It's not only relevant to the freedom-minded people of the world, but it's also a story of government corruption and greed, of arguably entrapment. It's a story that speaks to larger socio-political issues. The fact that we are engaged in an absurd policy of drug prohibition in which someone like Ross, who creates, I mean, what is unarguably the safest way to buy and sell drugs. I mean, it's the
not just the safest, but the best way for the best price.
The most. I mean, not only the most efficient, not the only like the best in terms of like a market perspective, but it's the safest. It's the most. You're not getting people mugged or killed or fucking hurt. You're not.
You have to traverse like dangerous urban landscapes to find something. You
exactly.
know what I mean?
I mean, it's. I don't know. It's something that we're really passionate about. We're really working on it. Or we're really working on getting everyone on board that needs to be on board, and we're budgeting it. And it's going to cost a couple $. And again, if you don't believe in the project or you think we're jerk offs, don't give us any money. You know, I mean,
we made that perfectly clear. Like, if you don't like us, that's totally fine.
But we are going to try to. But we like us, and we like our projects, and we believe in them. So we're going to try to raise money to do it. And we can't just pull a documentary out of our ass. It's going to cost a couple $, just to travel around and get equipment on it. I mean, you guys aren't idiots. You know, it costs money to do stuff like that. Yeah. So that's where we're at. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck is. What else do you do? I mean, if we don't actively seek out ways to make
a statement or to reach people or
to fuel the furnace. I mean,
exactly. To just put energy into it. You know what I mean?
So that's where we're at. I mean, and we are unabashedly capitalist. We're also very philanthropic. We're very generous. We're very, I mean,
we're not materialistic either. Yeah,
not materialistic in the slightest. But I find, I mean, I have no ill will towards Jeff fucking Bezos or anybody else who's voluntarily engaging in commerce and doing well. You know, I mean, I don't know him personally. Maybe he's involved in shady business practices. But I'm just saying, generally speaking, the fact that he has money doesn't make me dislike him.
Exactly. You're not evil because you're rich. That's a misconception that a lot of people have nowadays, and it's because of our relationship to money, because it's been so perverted by the Federal Reserve and all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we're trying to, in our way, spread the word. We're trying to, I guess, prop up this idea that we hold so dear, which is essentially just non-coercion, non-violence.
Freedom to make your own choices.
Freedom. And again, I want not just to be a niche little YouTuber. I want to make a documentary that gets submitted to fucking Sundance or whatever. Like, we need to have our ideas being mainstream. We can't just be these starving artists, living in the corners of the internet. We need to actually thrive.
People need to hear this shit. Yeah, like the whole Ross thing, like if it got mainstream publicity, that's a huge thing for so many different issues.
From people like us who actually are going to represent it the right way, and not from the jerk-offs
who are making the movie. If you saw the last interview with Lynn, we talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, so
they're gonna make him like kill somebody in the movie that they're making about him.
Listen,
he didn't kill anybody.
I mean, right? They depict like Ross actually shooting someone. I actually haven't seen it, but there's a clip that was showing to me that was just. It was like an out of context, like ridiculous.
No, they're making it now, and it's like in the script that they're actually gonna have a scene where Ross like fires a gun on somebody. Ross never, and nothing ever came like Ross was actually like violent with a gun, was gonna kill somebody.
Yeah. So that's what we're working on. If anyone wants to be embezzled, let us know, and we'll
send an email to TSOA at stateofanarchy.com.
In all honesty, all jokes aside, I hope that at the very least. You guys understand our point of view on all this, and our next podcasts are going to be way more interesting. Maybe not more interesting, but more lighthearted, or more about what we want to talk about. But this is some dirty laundry that was just aired out.
That had to get cleaned,
and we had to clean. We had to address it. I mean, anything else that we missed, Carm?
We could end it here, or we could talk about psychedelics.
Okay, well, listen. I'm all ears. You've done psychedelics more recently than I, so say what you got to say about them.
Because the whole drug prohibition thing, to me, is about who has sovereignty over the individual's consciousness, which, if you think about it, is probably the most fundamental libertarian issue you can get at. Like, the most fundamental you that there is, your human consciousness is not your jurisdiction. Like, that is, to me, is the most grotesque abuse.
That's actually a really interesting way to look at it. Because I mean, I've looked at the drug issue from a personal sovereignty perspective before, but like to actually break it down to the fact that they're controlling what your consciousness is allowed to be. That's essentially what they're saying. And I think what needs to be made clear, just because we don't forcibly with guns throw you in a cage for doing it, doesn't mean that like society generally like accepts it or thinks it's a good thing or promotes it necessarily. Other than the fact that it's ineffective in and of itself.
Yeah, other than the fact that prohibition has never worked.
There are more moral ways to address these issues. I mean, they start with parenting and community, but I mean, treatment. I'm sure there's a million different ways.
It's not incarceration.
Exactly.
It's not feeding a prison system that's growing into this like private fucking prison system mess. That's not what it is.
Right, because number one, you have no right. And Mr. Government, you have no right to make that determination for anyone else. Now, the argument is, well, drugs lead to these kind of secondary crimes.
Like violence and robbery. Well, we already have laws to deal with that.
Last I checked, like muggings and robberies and rapes, and they're already on the book as illegal. And if somebody does that in the pursuit of buying drugs, then that is wrong and they should be stopped and punished or whatever. Like
for that, not the drugs.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. Because, like... Even if 99% of drug addicts will do that, the 1% that doesn't still has a right to get high. Exactly. I mean, if that's what they want to do. And again, if I was their family member or their loved one or whatever, I would certainly really try to stop them from doing it. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't call someone with a gun to throw them in a cage.
Absolutely.
And also, let's talk about it from... Like, here's the thing. That's the easy one. That's the easy level that everybody talks about. It's very easy to sympathize with drug addicts. But here's another thing that I want to talk about. The reason why drug prohibition is why I find it to be most absurd isn't even the drug addict part, because it's the fact that there is such a lucrative, like an artificially lucrative industry that is just like bait, just being held out in front of the poorest and most desperate people in the world. And then,
as they're listening to music about drug rap,
well, right. I mean, on top
and being a gangster, brought to you by the record labels owned by the same banking companies that want these people, that own the prisons.
Look at the arguably the worst criminal group in the world right now are the Mexican cartels. That could be, in terms of like body count, they're fucking up there. And if the United States changed its drug policy tomorrow, meaning if drugs were made legal, if all drugs, heroin, meth, whatever, then if they did that on Monday, the cartels would be bankrupt on Tuesday. They would have no other business model. Their entire business model is predicated on United States drug policy. That's it. Because United States drug policy, I don't know if you knew this, Carmen, but it also carries weight around the rest of the world. The world takes its lead from United States drug policy. And in a lot of ways, the United States exerts political and sometimes economic pressure on different countries to adopt similar drug policies as the United States. The United States is, I think we have the biggest drug market in the world. It is absurd to think that your people are not going to take advantage of it. The only and again, the reason why it is so insanely violent and cutthroat is because of the fact that these are, the reason why that cocaine and heroin isn't sold as in the same way as tobacco and coffee is completely due to prohibition.
Yep.
There's no
it's legal status.
It would be traded in the same way as coffee, as coke, as alcohol, as anything else.
Tobacco.
There would be no need. First of all, there would be no need to kill your competition. There would be no.
Yeah, when's the last time you shot up the coffee shop down the street because he was stealing your business?
Right. And there would be no need to hire essentially private armies that can then take over entire countries or entire regions of countries.
There would be no economic incentive either.
It would be a waste.
Yeah.
People would be why would they spend money on guns when they could just spend money on processing facilities or distribution networks or whatever the fuck? I mean, in all reality, if I would like to if in a perfect world, I would love to go to Mexico and talk to cartel people and say, listen, I want to put you out of business and also like make you kind of rich too, because realistically speaking,
I want to change your business model a little bit.
Change your business model, because once
but in order for the business model to change, the laws have to change.
Right, exactly.
That's the fucking catch.
Exactly. And listen, I do not want anyone I love or I know to do certain drugs. I'm not, I don't know if you could tell from our conversations, we're clearly not prudes when it comes to all drugs. But I think drugs is a very uninformative word.
It's a blanket term that has so many different connotations.
Exactly. So many things fall into that category that to say drugs really is meaningless.
Yeah.
Again, like so something like heroin. Like, I mean, I've never tried heroin. I don't intend on trying heroin.
Some people I know have tried heroin. They told me it wasn't so good.
Yeah, I mean,
the ones that survived.
And the people that I see that do it clearly aren't.
They don't look appealing.
They ain't doing great either. And my heart breaks for them. And I would love more than anything in the world to like be able to help them, because honestly, I mean, the opioid epidemic has really taken our generation by the throat. I mean, Carmen and I, and I'm sure whoever else listening to this, I mean, we have a lot of people in our lives, a lot of close people that we knew that passed away. I mean, best friends, girls, whatever the case may be. I mean, we all have our stories of people we knew that
they lost the battle.
They lost the battle. So this isn't coming from a place of I guess of apathy. It's just really coming from a place of what is the most effective way to
stop this.
Not only stop this, but also when the resources aren't allocated to fucking hunting these people down like animals and throwing them in prisons, it could the energy could be put towards treatments and put towards actually addressing the psychological issues, and you wouldn't have, like, again, I talk about the economic incentives. If I was, if I was born in an impoverished part of Mexico or in a horrible crime-ridden project home in Chicago or any fucking impoverished place that you can name, I can't say with certainty that I would like be able to turn abstain from the temptation to get ahead through being in a gang or selling drugs or whatever the case may be. I can't make it, because you know what? In all reality, a pragmatist would say, if I don't do it, someone else will. And
in all reality, it's also kind of your right to engage in voluntary trade with people.
I mean, right? I mean, that's another thing. Like, I don't demonize. I'm in a minority, but I don't demonize drug dealers. I mean, if you murder someone, that's wrong. If you do things,
it's wrong because you're a murderer, not because you're a drug dealer.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, it's really unrealistic for anyone to believe that because it's illegal, people are going to abstain from it. In fact, there are more people involved in the drug trade because it's legal. If it was legal, there wouldn't be that. It wouldn't require that many people.
Yeah,
you wouldn't need.
It'd be much more streamlined.
You wouldn't need as many middlemen. You wouldn't need fucking traffickers. You wouldn't need all this bullshit.
There'd be fucking it'd be Facebook ads.
Exactly, it'd be fucking automated. Like, the reason why this drug economy is what it is based on U.S. drug policy and drug prohibition. Listen, why would it be effective with anything else? We tried this with alcohol. We tried it before. There was organized crime in this country was created because of drug prohibition. Or I'm sorry, because of alcohol prohibition.
Which alcohol's a drug, so you weren't off.
Well, right, but because of that, I mean that's a known fact. I mean, it was literally, it went from like gangs in New York, street gangs, to like highly advanced organizations in a matter of less than a decade, and what caused that was alcohol prohibition. That was the catalyst for all of that, and all of, I guess, the negative fucking effects that had for society in the years following. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I mean, that's really true. I'm sure I actually genuinely believe that the people that support, most people support heroin being illegal. Most people think that's the right thing to do, and they probably do it for the right reasons. For good reasons, but they're not understanding.
It's part of the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is per most things. But that, now that we've touched on the sort of dark side of the whole drug prohibition thing, I want to touch on what I consider to be the more esoteric side about other drugs that are considered illegal. Specifically, 3 come to mind. And if the presentation of the healing seminar from Anarchadelphia is out, I actually talked about these 3 drugs on that. One being cannabis, the other being psychedelic mushrooms, and the other being DMT, dimethyltryptamine. These are 3 drugs that I believe are illegal for entirely different reasons. And, you can get into that conversation. I personally think that those 3 drugs, and almost anything that comes from nature. I mean, some people talk about LSD. I mean, even fucking people like eat a bunch of cacao and shit and start like getting real nuts and, like, give each other hugs and shit. But specifically things like mushrooms and even cannabis, and then DMT if you're hardcore. Like, these are things that sort of like what some people would say and what I would say give you a slight glimpse into like what it's like to have like extrasensory perception, at least in the regards of being aware of dimensions of consciousness that you weren't previously aware of. And like, I think that those experiences, I mean, me and you personally have had experiences where those dimensions have given us insight that drastically changed our life for the better and our outlooks and maybe how we engage with the world. And I think that that's another huge reason why drugs like those are illegal, because they don't want people coming to these like sort of like nirvana moments where they can pull themselves out of self-destructive programming that was installed on them by, the education system and the media and all of that.
I think my personal opinion is, I think you're right, but I think listen, maybe there is a hidden hand, but I think in terms of like, at least on the individual level, on like the common like layman, I think it's fear. I think a lot of people misunderstand those kinds of experiences, and if they're not ready for them, or if they said maybe, I guess if they're not ready for them, or if they're not ready for other people to have them, like it causes them to misunderstand and to vilify something that, again, even I'm not saying that everyone. I mean, some people microdose and have a good time, and I'm not.
I did it 2 days ago.
I'm not promoting like daily mushroom or LSD use or anything, but that being said, I never did LSD, but DMT, it was something I tried before, and that really did open up my mind and to some experiences that I can't even really verbalize, because it's something you have to experience for yourself. And I'm still, over a year later, kind of grappling with what that meant and kind of what I said. There's a recording of me that I haven't even been ready to listen to yet.
Oh yeah, we audio recorded it. But me and Pat were your shamans. We were sitting in these 2 chairs and just letting you have your experience.
Yeah, man, it was cool. One day I'm going to listen to it, but I'm not even like ready yet. And that's neither here nor there. But the point is, I think that some people are afraid. I think people they don't understand. They think that it's almost like a weakness to want to be out of your mind, and it's because they view it as an inability to cope with reality or something. And again,
granted, like anything else, people can use it for that.
And people do use all kinds of things for cigarettes,
have nothing
drugs.
To do with drugs. Yeah,
I mean,
food, sex, TV.
Yeah, I mean, they're not wrong to point out that could be a threat, but that doesn't justify.
That doesn't negate the benefits that people gain from these things either when they use them correctly.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's kind of where. That's what I think. That's where I'm at. I think it's fear. I think that maybe there are some people that understand it and are trying to keep it from us. But I personally just believe that, like, I don't even think they're that smart. I don't even think they're that aware, or like I think that, at least I'm saying people in government. Like, I don't think the average politician that's drafting this fucking legislation has any idea. Like, and they're just afraid of what they're ignorant to. Kind of a common theme in history, it seems.
Very interesting.
If anybody made it through this entire thing, I would like you to, in the comment section or wherever, shoot us an email. Let us know some suggestions. Give us some suggestions for people you might like us to speak with. Give us some suggestions for topics you would like us to touch on. I mean, we really are. The State of Anarchy is a community. I mean, we take our take our position seriously, or the fact that we have a little bit of a platform seriously, and we really want as many people as possible to feel engaged and to feel as though they're able to get their perspectives out there. Because again, you can find value in a YouTube comment. You really can. I mean,
no, I have before.
I have as well. So I want to foster that, and I want people to like start their own shit and have their own channels, and I want to have a little community where we can kind of have dialogue with each other. It shouldn't just be us on a couch having a conversation. That's not where it should end. So if you guys have any thoughts, any suggestions, anything, shoot in the comments, shoot us an email, reach out to us. We're really trying to make this an engaging kind of podcast. We don't want it to be sterile. We don't want to be afar. We're with you guys. Like, we're normal fucking people. We have normal fucking lives.
Just like you, man.
Normal jobs, trying to fucking make this work. So
trying to free humanity.
That's it. So that's what I would like to close it with.
Awesome. All right, that was the State of Anarchy.
First podcast, episode 1.
Woo! Hope you enjoyed that awesome video. We got plenty more videos like that coming, including all the speeches and presentations from Anarchadelphia. This year's Anarchadelphia was one for the history books, man. We had some great speeches, we had some great speakers, we had some great interactions, and we had a lot of fun doing it. Everybody who came out really gave us the best feedback. We couldn't be more pleased with how everything rolled out. It was an entirely self-funded event. Thank you guys for making it possible. We couldn't have done it without you. So now that leads me into our next thing that we want to show you guys is something else that's not just a conference, but something that you can do year-round to empower yourself. We've partnered with Richard Grove from Autonomy to show you a program. It's basically a curriculum, an unschooling curriculum that allows you to learn all the shit that you didn't learn in school and how to actually prosper when the deck is stacked against you in the world that we live in. Because make no mistake, there is forces keeping us from being autonomous and from being free. So you can check the link below to figure stuff like that out. It's an awesome curriculum, and I'm doing it myself. I can't believe how powerful it is. Anarchadelphia next year is going to be sick, but until then, it's time to escape some parties.